again, I hate to be so graphic. I have to kind of separate my emotional brain with my logical brain as I talk about this, because if not, it's almost debilitating to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But the size of the fetal remains entering the pipes is going to vary based on the gestational age, and that's as a whole other thing to think about is the illegal use of these pills at later gestational ages.
I believe go ahead, John.
Yeah, every time that the government has made a change in this, the law required them to do another environmental assessment. So there's been at least, 6 or 7 changes in the law. Some of the major, like to move the pill authority from 7 weeks to 10 weeks. Well, that creates more mass, more volume of more children going down the drain, more mifepristone. They never studied it at all. And we're simply saying, look, we've got it. We can't turn our heads. We've now got, I know we have a president that has a nuanced position with the abortion issue, but he is fully committed to clean water. He has to look at this. The EPA has to look at this. The FDA has to look at this. The FDA, they were interested in just how the pill affected the individual, right? They completely didn't even think about, this woman has to give birth. This is going to go into the water. That's an environmental issue, which then the EPA should be looking at. But both of them kind of just looking at each other going, well, I'm not, saying it's like looking at each other. But both of these agencies need to be held accountable. I realize these are sins from the past, so to speak, but we now have clear-minded secretaries in both the EPA and the FDA. So this is something that they have to look at, and we're asking them at the highest levels to look at it.
And these pills, I mean, their use and their availability is just going off the charts. June 19th, the Daily Caller News Foundation able to order these abortion pills. Under former President Biden, they removed the requirement that they give this drug in person. They allowed for mail orders to take place. In just a matter of minutes, the Daily Caller News Foundation obtained 5 sets of this medication simply by filling out the online medical forms that were created by providers. And it is just so readily accessible to anybody who wants to fill out the document.
Absolutely. Right. And I would just, think about as well, then what does that mean for, folks that are involved in sex trafficking and things of that nature? It's atrocious on so many levels, and other aspects of that have been, looked into. Our focus being the environmental aspect, like I say, just consider if that's the case, you can get these pills just by filling out a form that quickly. There have been cases of chemical abortions at, beyond 20 weeks. And a baby can survive at 22 weeks. This is a national catastrophe on so many levels. And at the environmental level, we're just saying, like, hey, even if you disagree with us that abortion is taking a human life, can you at least agree that we shouldn't be contaminating our water with it?
The EPA keeps a list of possible harmful water contaminants for periodic review. Has mifepristone ever been considered for this list?
Not that we're aware of. Although we do know, and you're probably aware of this as well, that several members of Congress led a letter to the EPA. Senator Langford and Representative Josh Burkeen led a letter to the EPA asking them some of those similar questions and calling on them to look at mifepristone and its byproducts in our water.
Yeah. Well, you've identified a huge problem here, and I'd like to know, where do we go from here? And John, we'll start with you and add in then Abigail. Where do we go from here? What needs to happen? And really it boils down to, what can our listeners do to be engaged in this battle for clean water?
Well, first of all, education. Up till just recently, there's only been 1 or 2 organizations even addressing this, and a handful of John the Baptist kind of crying in the wilderness.
Yeah.
We need every single citizen to understand this issue, to understand that 70,000 abortions are happening a year in the toilet, going into the wastewater. Students for Life estimates that's between 30 to 40 tons a year of medical waste, fetal remains, babies going into the toilet with mifepristone. It's tragic and it's scandalous. So, number one, get education. Go to abortioninourwater.org. Read the report. We have short reports, long reports. Put stuff on social media. We have memes. We have one-pagers where you can see the whole thing in one diagram. We need people to get educated. Number 2, take action. Talk to your congressman. We think that we need to have a congressional hearing. It's a scandal that this is not being talked about in a larger way. No major news media has covered it. It's just kind of silent, right? So we need to have a congressional hearing so that it can get in the mainstream media and that Joe Lunchbucket and Sally Susan can understand what's going on here. We have been actively communicating with all levels of government, including agencies, on this, and are using our contacts to further that. But the public needs to be outraged and needs to be educated.
Tell you what, we're up against a break, and I'm going to also have Abigail weigh in on this as well. Friends, you're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. John Stemberger and Abigail Foreman are with us from Liberty Counsel Action. And write down the website, abortioninourwater.org. Abortioninourwater.org. And it is gross, it is horrendous what is going on, and indeed, Congress needs to hold hearings on this. Let the information come forth. We'll be back in just 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America.
Cemeteries and mausoleums are evidence of the sad reality of death, and that each of us has a divine appointment with death. According to surveys, Americans overwhelmingly believe that heaven exists and believe that most are going there. A small number believes that hell exists, with only 0.5% believing they will go there when they die. What if those who do not believe in hell die one day and find they made a tragic and eternal mistake? In the book, Hell is for Real, author Gary Frazier discusses the separation, the suffering, and the sorrow of hell, along with future events that will unfold. There is much information given by movies, television, psychics, and even by many religious circles. Gary presents scriptural truth on this important topic. VCY is making available the book, Hell is for Real, as our way of saying thank you for your support of $15 or more. 2 copies for a donation of $25. Just ask for it when you call 1-800-729-9829.
You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY American Network, and friends, a very important topic today, abortion in our water. It's a white paper, and it is very comprehensive, a special report on chemical home abortions and the disposition of aborted fetal remains. And our guest here today, John Stemberger and Abigail Foreman, who represent Liberty Counsel Action, coming together along with others that have collaborated on this report to make it known. How many of you have social media pages where you can say, hey, just learned about this today, and send a link to abortioninourwater.org, abortioninourwater.org. John had recommended the aspect of reaching out to your member of Congress, but first of all, get informed yourself, get educated on this, and educate others. Contact your own congressman, say, hey, hearings need to be held on this. You can reach out to your member of Congress at 202-224-3121, the House or Senate. You can call and ask to speak to your own legislator and really demand that there be hearings on this very aspect. They need information. Send them a link. Send them a link to abortioninourwater.org. Highly, highly documented in this paper. Abigail, John had just given us some information a bit ago here on the aspect of in being informed, taking action, reaching out to members of Congress. This does need to be exposed. Anything else you want to add to that on a federal level, and what about on a state level?
Absolutely. So at a federal level, what we would hope is that congressional hearings lead to the initiation of gold standard research. Gold standard research is something that the Trump administration has reinstated, basically requiring that any federal decisions adhere to a standard of science that is, for example, subject to unbiased peer review, which we know the mifepristone pill was not. And so, if we're going to hold hearings on this, we need the information. We need to know what is in our water, what could we be drinking. And so gold standard research on mifepristone and its metabolites and the byproducts, the medical waste that's being put into our water needs to be conducted. Specifically, we need to know, is it or how is it affecting ecosystems, aquatic life, and is it or how is it affecting human health, particularly fertility? And so we would also argue, that the research on this that we're calling the federal government to do is a natural complement to research that's already been promised. I mentioned Secretary Kennedy's promise to investigate infertility, but also Secretary Kennedy has directed the commissioner of the FDA to do a complete review of mifepristone and report back I would argue a complete review of mifepristone would include a proper, legally compliant environmental assessment that was never completed in the first instance. It absolutely should be completed now. And just a final note on this, the Make America Healthy Again Commission report, which probably a lot of folks have heard about, basically has a recommendation at the end of it to map gene-environment interactions affecting childhood disease and risk, especially for pollutants, endocrine disruptors, and pharmaceuticals.
Yep.
Well, mifepristone falls into all three of those categories. And so when folks are advocating to their legislator, make sure they point out, we're not actually asking you to do a whole lot more than you've already promised to do. We're asking you to make the environmental impact of mifepristone and its byproduct a feature of some of the things that are already underway and already promised. And then the state issue is similar to the federal level, but basically you want to ask your state and local lawmakers, what are the specific medical waste regulations in our state? What are the specific fetal disposition laws? Some states actually require interment or burial, cremation of fetal remains, although that usually applies to surgical abortions. But all states have regulated medical waste laws and regulations that require medical waste to be disposed of properly. So say, hey, are we adhering to all these? Are abortion providers in our state adhering to all these and making sure that the fetal remains are disposed of properly? Because I can wager a guess they're not. And so you want to ask your state lawmakers to just take a look at that and see if they can enforce laws already on the books or pass laws to ensure that these chemical contaminants and fetal remains are being disposed of properly.
Friends, our phone number on Crosstalk today is 800-733-9829. That's 800-733-9829 as we make our phone lines available here for our guest dealing with this matter of abortion in our water. What is your reaction to this, friends? 800-733-9829. Just before we pick up our first call, let me ask you, John, there's another aspect to all of this, and that is women are being injured by the pill. Many have entered emergency rooms in hospitals this past Monday night. The House Appropriations Committee included a statement approving the FDA's review of mifepristone in its markup of the fiscal year 2026 Agriculture Appropriations Bill. Democrats on this committee tried to block this amendment. Should this be a partisan issue?
Yeah, no. Listen, chemical abortions are exponentially more harmful than even a surgical abortion. And I hate to compare two really bad things, but think about it. First of all, the active agency is not a doctor acting upon you. You're acting upon yourself. You are putting the deadly poison pill in your mouth. You are all alone. There's no medical attendants. There's no nurse, no doctor. You're in your bathroom giving birth to your own dead baby, which you can literally see and interact with in the toilet. So you're talking about a very traumatic, psychologically, the trauma here is exponentially more. Mm-hmm. We're getting some reports that even women are going to hotel rooms to do this. Because this is not just one and done. This is something that you take for days. If you saw Abby Johnson's movie, she was on the floor rolling, hemorrhaging for days and days between the shower and the toilet and back and forth. It's a bloody mess. It's just a horrible experience. There's no one there to be with you, right? And so the doctors are just saying, hey, take the pill and go, right? And so in some states, you don't even have a doctor. You can just mail the pill,
right.
And then the bathroom becomes the trigger point for the rest of your life. The bathroom, place that should be of normal safety and security and sanity is a trigger point for this horrible, bloody act that you committed. It just makes it so much more traumatic than even the surgical abortion. And we can't forget that because the rates of hospital visits exponentially climbed 500% of the last 10 years. Many of the hospitals are not really recording this. They're saying, oh, either the woman's lying and saying, oh, it's a miscarriage, or the ER is just not asking, and they're saying, oh, it's a miscarriage. But many of these are actually chemical abortions when they go to the hospital.
Again, friends, our phone number, 800-733-9829, 800-733-9829. Your reaction to the information you're learning today, 800-733-9829. Let's begin with Paul. Hi, Paul, you're on the air.
Hello. Paul from Cameron?
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, I'm on the air. Yes, sometimes these abortions can be even recommended by churches.
Yeah.
I had somewhat had a tussle with a pastor once that that I was actually going out and had gotten a woman pregnant out of wedlock. Well, that was not the issue. We were much planning a wedding, and we got into a heated discussion, and he said, well, if she is pregnant, meaning, and he stopped there, but I know pretty much what he meant was either the child would be given up for adoption, where we could not at all afford it to support it, and I know we could have, or the only other option would have been abortion, and he will be judged by God for that one day. That's all I'm saying with it. I can't judge him myself. I can't even judge myself, but certainly I think it caused her to be infertile, and we lost the baby.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Paul, in regard to that, but and thank you for the call. Let me just mention that, sadly, there are denominations and churches that are just kind of blinking their eyes at this, and that's a tragedy as well, John.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I know we're not talking about faith. We're talking about science and medical industry and all that.
Right.
But the bottom line is this taking of a human life that's made in the image and likeness of God, and whether it's chemical abortion or surgical abortion, it's an abomination.
Right. Our phone number here, 800-733-9829. Let's go to Barbara next in Kansas. Barbara, you're on the air.
Oh, thank you so much for this program. This issue's been bothering me for a couple of weeks now. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, Barbara, we can hardly hear you, so right and close to your mouthpiece there.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that the first mention of a plague with blood in the water appears in Exodus 7.
Yeah.
And so, I know we have politicians who think that it's just perfectly all right to do these kinds of things.
Yeah.
But how is this going to cause some kind of plague or pandemic for the whole United States?
Thank you for the call. Thank you. Let me just ask you this, and some would argue saying, well, how is this any different than like a miscarriage in which perhaps the remains of a woman who miscarries and it goes through that same system into the water system as well? Is there a difference, or is it one and the same thing? Andrew?
I'm happy to answer that question. So essentially, there are two issues with that, and we would argue they're vastly different. Obviously, in one instance, it's not intentional, it's not wanted, and it's tragic. Also, in a miscarriage, you don't have chemically tainted fetal remains, and so oftentimes expectant moms suffering the loss of a baby are going to go to the hospital. They're going to get treatment in accordance with all state and local laws. But even for those that don't, not all of them, I would say wager very few are going to willingly flush their baby down the toilet. Whereas in a chemical abortion, you now are chemically tainting those fetal remains with mifepristone metabolites and the pill itself. And, you're directing a woman to flush the baby down the toilet. This is irresponsible on so many levels, but, in the case of it's also planned. So because, you know what's going to happen, you have the opportunity to mitigate the harmful effects that it could have on our water supply.
Yeah. We've got John calling from the state of Minnesota. John, you're on the air.
Hi, I'm just calling to ask you, were you aware of that movie Soylent Green? They're putting it in our food, too. They're putting dead humans in our food, too, and we're eating it.
Let's stay on a topic here today, because there's all kinds of things here with water supply. Do you have a question for our guest on this topic here of abortion in our water?
Yeah. Is it this really happening? How can we do this? Can we get in touch with our senators and our congressmen?
Yeah. And
Thank you. Go to the website abortioninourwater.org, abortioninourwater.org, and with one click, you can send a fax, which is a physical piece of paper, into every congressman and every senator's office and various agencies. So go to abortioninourwater.org, and those action steps are right there, along with materials to educate you more.
Yeah, there are action steps available, but you're saying that just by a click of a button, they can send a fax or an alert? Wow.
Correct.
Okay, again, that's abortioninourwater.org. Let's try and squeeze in another call before our break. Susan in Arizona, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Jim. I wish you could see the look on my face right now. Listening to this, it's just making me sick.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. It's making me sick. just for all the hell that abortion is causing, it seems to me that it's just easier just to have the baby and give it up for adoption. I mean, all the hell that it's creating for the women and the environment, and not to mention, using an Eastern term, bad karma that these people are creating for themselves by doing this. Just have the baby and give it up for adoption. I'll never boil beans in water again from the tap. I can't tell you, it's nauseating. Thank you.
And thank you for the call. We're up against a break. We'll take the break and get some further comment from our guest and additional calls from you as well at 800-733-9829. Friends, marked on the website, that's where it begins. Education, the information, abortioninourwater.org. And then help inform others regarding this as well. Back in a minute here on Crosstalk.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. I played on my broadcast a speech of President Reagan from 1983 on the Year of the Bible at a National Christian Religious Broadcasters Convention. The man that introduced him, first name, Brandt. He's now passed away. I want to tell you a little story. That man went on to plant Christian radio stations all over the world. Then he became the president of this Christian broadcasting network to defend religious liberty and freedom and the right to preach and give out the gospel in America and around the world. You may say, I'll never have that kind of influence. I'll never have that kind of legacy. I can't live up to that. Well, guess what? You're not called to maybe necessarily do what he did. You're called to do what you're called to do. But you know what? That little boy had a single mother. And there was someone across the street that invited him to church. We met the Lord. And that was my wife's grandmother. Can you invite someone to church today? You never know what they might do for the Lord. Just walk across the street and be faithful.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America, Abortion in Our Water. Our topic today, John Stemberger and Abigail Foreman with us from Liberty Counsel Action. And a call right before the break, John and Abigail just simply said, I'm just completely grossed out by this. And I can't help but think about this as I turn on my water in my home. That's what it should have, Abigail, that kind of reaction to us. I mean, we should actually be repulsed by this.
Absolutely. John has said several times, and I agree wholeheartedly, once you learn about this, you can't unlearn it. Mm-hmm. As I started digging into this research myself. I look at the water bottle I hold in my hand, and I just start praying because that's what we need. We need to see a change in what's happening because it is disturbing. It's on many levels.
Let's go to Pastor A.B. in Racine, Wisconsin. You're on the air.
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for the show that you're having today. I have the organization Terry 1 Hour, mm-hmm. and America has become a nation of death. No nation can survive killing off its offspring. Our offspring is our future.
Yeah.
And because of the Bible says in the last day they will be selfish and conceited, as they are today. They are destroying this nation. God is warning us. He warning everybody how evil this child sacrifice is affecting us.
Yeah.
We sit back and watch the lives of these children being taken away from everything from birth control to the physical abortion.
Yeah.
We say it's nothing about it. It's no outrage. We just had a new clinic that's opened up, a new child sacrifice center opened up in Milwaukee. That makes 3, and that was no outrage. It was a few Christians out there, but if we could have got 1/3 of the so-called the church out there, that would have been able to shut it down. But the problem is, this is God's warning us. God is still giving us mercy to turn this back around. We need to contact the church. We need to contact our legislators. We need to contact our neighbors. We need to make this a great conversation. I thank you for your guest today because we need to keep this subject in the public eye.
We do. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Jim, for your wonderful shows, programs that you have. and trying to save lives and souls for the kingdom of Christ.
Thank you so much. Let me ask you, John, on this aspect. Many times people say, well, what you do in the privacy of your home, that's between you and whatever you're going to do, or the privacy of, your bathroom or whatever. But this ought to impact every American.
That's right. That's exactly right. Everybody has an interest in clean water. And the scary part is just because your water is clear, that doesn't mean a thing. We don't know what's in it, and we need to know what's in it. Yeah. And they're studying everything except for this. This chemical is uniquely lethal. It is uniquely producing biohazard waste at an exponential rate that's growing. And so we have to study this. We have to sound the alarm. We cannot let government sit back and go business as usual on the abortion issue. It's more traumatic to the woman exponentially. The psychological trauma to her of having to interact with her dead baby in the toilet and the blood for days and days and hemorrhaging and all of that is horrific, not to mention the impact of the water. Chemical abortion just needs to be completely halted in America. At a very minimum, they should allow surgical abortions. I hate to even say that, but in terms of comparison, there's no comparison. Chemical abortion is just horrible.
Yeah, and everyone, as you said, that destroys a human life, and we are made in the image of God, and yet we are seeing that it's like evil upon evil. Let's go to William in Florence, Kentucky. William, you're on the air.
Yes, Jim, thank you very much, and I appreciate your guests that you have on today. I'm a man with 6 children and 9 grandbabies, and none of us believe in abortion. But anyway, your air, your water, and your food, that is so much and so important in everything. And I've done plumbing work, and I know that all the elbows and all the things that are in the plumbing pipes and all that can't handle that mess like that. So we're just corrupting ourselves, like the Bible says, in the last days. And I just wanted to call in and say Maranatha and Lord Jesus, come quickly. And thank you, Jim, and everybody that you have on to share this with us. God bless you.
Thank you. Appreciate your call. Let me squeeze in also Paul in Wisconsin. Paul, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for bringing this to light. Really appreciate you guys getting the public to know what's going on here. Just want to share, a few months ago, I run a Crosstalk radio program talking about this birth pill, and a young lady had taken it, and the baby died, but she couldn't pass the baby, so it went septic, and then turned the mom went septic, and then both ended up dying. And that thing needs to be brought to light, too, for girls considering doing this.
Right. Great, good point. Thank you, Paul. And John, that's what you brought up as well, is the psychological, the physical implications of taking the pill.
It's horrendous.
Yeah. We're down to just a little over a minute and a half, and I want to give both of you an opportunity to give us some concluding thoughts. We'll be beginning with Abigail, but friends, let me again mention the website abortioninourwater.org. Again, to be informed, then to take action, inform others on this, connect with your congressman on this, to hold congressional hearings on this very aspect. So as we boil things down here to our topic today, Abigail, what do you want to leave with our listeners?
In addition to advocating, educating yourself and reaching out to your state and federal lawmakers, I would say we need to be praying. We need to be talking to folks. Talk to your friends and family about this. Post on social media. We can end chemical abortion in our lifetime, but we can't do it alone. So I would just I would ask everybody listening, please join us in this fight, both on your knees and in your communications with your friends and family.
John?
I can't improve upon that. That's exactly correct. Let me say it again. We can end chemical abortion in our lifetime. If we work together, there's so many reasons why it's horrible. It's not in the best interest of women, the children that are destroyed, or the best interest of society as a whole in terms of the environment. Even fish are potentially affected by this, and so it affects seafood. It's just a horrible thing. We have to study it. We have to ban it. We have to know what's going on.
And friends, we got to get to the bottom of this, and that's where congressional hearings are so important, to bring in the experts in dealing with this very aspect and put that public testimony before the people of the United States of America. John and Abigail, thank you both for joining us here on the broadcast today.
Thank
you. It's been an honor.
Friends, again, let me just mention their website. Write it down. Learn about this yourself, and then pass the information on through the channels that only you have. You can reach people I can't reach, but you have the opportunity to do that. Check it out at abortioninourwater.org. And you'll have opportunity there to see the action points, read the research, and just remember that God instructs us in His Word to choose life. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the Internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Take Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. Or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.